consider studying chemical engineering at WPI. First is the people. As I mentioned to you before, we really have an incredible group of faculty, students, and staff that work very closely with each other and that really create this collegial learning environment that I think really benefits all of us. I love coming to work. I love interacting with all the people. Really an incredible group of people here at WPI, in particular in chemical engineering. The projects, and we can answer some questions about these, and I'm going to ask both of our students one's a senior and one's a BSMS right now in his year of his master's, to tell us about their experience with the projects. Remember, we have a few different projects, and we'll talk a little bit more about those in a second. The facilities, we have some incredible labs that you can work and study in, both for research and for the classes. We have a very unique curriculum, and we've won awards for the curriculum we have here in chemical engineering. It's a little bit different than what you may be seeing at some other institutions. And then also thinking about your future. We have an incredible job placement rate. We have an incredible mentoring system and career development system here at WPI that really prepares you for your future career. So here's some pictures of some of our students and some of our faculty. The bottom left picture is actually the TIMCO group from a year or so ago. Muntasser works with them now, and that was at a barbecue. We host a lot of different events and participate in things like Touch Tomorrow. And so the community really comes together in a lot of different ways. The faculty, so we have, a diverse faculty. There's 15 of us. We work in a lot of different areas that span the chemical engineering discipline, things like biofuels, bioengineering, materials, nanotechnology, catalysis and reaction engineering. We also have some incredible people in computational sciences, looking at computational chemistry, and then systems engineering. We were talking about that techno-economic analysis before. And something that's really unique about our department is that we're 40% women faculty, which is quite unique amongst chemical engineering departments nationwide. We also have a professor of practice, who's Professor Chemiotech, who worked at Dow Chemical and other places for over 30 years. And we've hired some incredible faculty, young faculty that are pre-tenure and just have gotten tenured and doing really amazing work in their respective fields. So the projects, just as a brief summary, you'll get to participate in a few different projects here at WPI. The first is the Humanities and Arts Project. So it's an in-depth study in an area of interest, and that could really be anything. You could do music or drama or art or English literature or history. My son's actually going to be doing philosophy, which I think is really cool. And we have a huge emphasis on global studies here, and positioning yourself for a career in this global technological society. So you get to take courses in a particular area, and then you get to do what's called an inquiry seminar, where you get to explore a particular problem in depth. Then there's what's called our IQP, or Interactive Qualifying Project, which is really our Society Technology Link project. In this case, students really get to explore the impact of technology on society. And they do it in a lot of different ways. Some students do it locally. There's a lot of benefit and use in studying here in the Worcester area. But most of our students actually will travel for this IQP project, and they'll go away for a 7-week term to a site. And we have, 45 to 50 different project locations worldwide where students can study. And we could talk more about that if you have any questions. And then there's also the Chemical Engineering Project, which is called our Major Qualifying Project, or MQP. And our students do this during their senior year typically. They can do those in faculty research labs. We heard about Marina a little bit earlier, if you were online, talking about her work in the Young Lab. They can do it at local industry. We have probably about 30 to 40% of our projects are done in collaboration with industry. So you get a real feel for how the work you do can be translated in the commercial or industrial environment. And we also have project centers in chemical engineering. And so some of our students will go away for 7 weeks. We have one in Modesto, California, that does work with Gallo Winery and developing better profiles for the flavors in their wines. We have one in Shanghai, in Beijing, in China. We have a long-standing one in Nancy, France, that's been in existence for almost 20 years. So we always send six or so students out there, C-term every year. And we have a brand new one in Brazil that started right before COVID. And the list is growing. We have one that's in talks now that will be in London. So there's an opportunity for global travel for your major qualifying project as well. We have some really unique facilities, not just the research labs and the classrooms, but we have a 3-story, what's called unit operations lab. And so a unit operation is, a technique that we use in chemical processes. And so we have this lab with, probably 15 or 20 different unit operations that are set up, where students take this capstone course their senior year, and they can get experience working in the different types of unit operations and technologies. And so these are just some snapshots of our senior lab. And the 3-story design is a little bit unique, but you can have, columns that are spanning from one floor to another. There's a lot of really unique things in this lab, one of them being augmented reality capabilities. So when COVID hit, we actually had a group of faculty install cameras, and we use HoloLens technology to be able to work with students that are remote on their computer to make them feel like they're actually present in the lab environment. So some really cool things going on in this capstone lab experience. Here's just a quick snapshot of our curriculum. Usually the first year you take the basic science and humanities classes. A lot of our students will take 4 years of chemistry, obviously very important in chemical engineering, math, some humanities. We also offer an intro to chemical engineering class in B term to learn a little bit more about the major. Sophomore year is where we have this really unique curriculum, and this is where we received awards. We have 4 classes, but we do what's called a spiral curriculum. So we introduce concepts in a simple way in A term, and it gets more sophisticated as we go through B, C, and D term. And we spiral back to kind of simple to more advanced topics in all of these areas. And it's a really good way to reinforce concepts that are important for fundamental chemical engineering. There's also a lot of very interesting projects in these courses throughout the sophomore year. And again, most of our students will complete their humanities and arts in-depth inquiry seminar during the sophomore year. Junior year, a lot of our students will take what's called engineering science courses. And these are courses that are really critical to a lot of different engineering disciplines here at WPI. Fluid mechanics, heat transfer, mass transfer, and kinetics and reactor design. And students will also partake in their interdisciplinary qualifying project, or IQP. And like I said, most of our students will go away from that. So we've structured our curriculum to be able to offer these engineering science courses in multiple terms. So for instance, you can take fluid mechanics in A term, or if you end up going away for IQP in A term, you can take fluid mechanics in B term. So there's a lot of flexibility in our junior year to allow students to really explore that global project. And then senior year, you do your MQP. And then you also do a lot of the capstone courses. And some of those I mentioned before about our unit operations lab. Students generally will take 2 terms of that lab course. They take 2 terms of process design and economics, and then a capstone design experience, which has been redesigned just recently to allow students to explore the capstone design in their specific area of interest, be it bio or energy or materials or whatever they're most interested in chemical engineering. And then we have some additional chemical engineering courses, process control and applied math, that a lot of our students will take the senior year. We have a bunch of concentrations that we offer where students can focus additional studies in disciplines that they're excited about. And so we have a biological concentration that prepares students for careers in biomanufacturing, pharmaceuticals, and biotechnology. We have that Genzyme, I have to change that to Sanofi. And the core course here is the Intro to Biological Engineering course, which is the one that I teach that I was talking about, which draws, all of our core courses here draw between 25 and 30 students annually. So we have a nice spread of students interested in these different areas. So the first one is biological. The second one is energy. Our department leads really the energy efforts on campus in the WPI Energy Group. We have leading research faculty and a really strong group of core faculty in areas such as biofuels, fuel cells, catalysis, energy storage. And we also collaborate a lot with different industries in our energy efforts in the department. We have an environmental concentration. A lot of students have been really interested in sustainability, which kind of overlaps a little bit with the energy area. But we have a really unique course called Transport and Transformations in the Environment. And so really exploring the environmental impact and on the processes that we develop as chemical engineers. We also have this really unique fuel cell car competition that takes place as part of our American Institute of Chemical Engineers student chapter. And lastly, we have a materials concentration. This is in collaboration with the Mechanical and Materials Engineering Department. And so a lot of our faculty are leading researchers in areas like nanotechnology or soft materials or polymers for biological applications, environmentally sound materials, and then characterizing materials. And so can take work. The thing is just about anywhere. And this is what I love about our discipline. And we really see this in our students. They go to so many different areas. It's a very broad degree. Chemical engineering prepares you to develop processes and solve problems using the fundamentals of chemistry. And so we have our students go to work in the energy and fuels area. They go to work in commodity chemicals, specialty chemicals. They go to work with microelectronics, advanced materials, biopharma, even the transportation industry. And then a lot of our students actually go to work in food and beverage companies because a lot of the processes that are used to make food parallel those unit operations that we use in chemical processes. They work in the environmental industry, process control and design. And so pretty much whatever you can imagine, you can go work as a chemical engineer. And this makes the discipline actually a really wonderful one to get your degree in, because you can shift as your career goes forward to work in these different industries where your passions lie. What's your degree worth? Well, chemical engineering degree, and this is recent WPI career development report in March 2020, is about $70,000 a year. So that's the average starting salary for students that graduate with a BS in chemical engineering from WPI. And about 30% of our students will go on to pursue graduate school and maybe in the BS-MS program or go on and get their PhDs. And that number has been increasing a little bit due to COVID. We've seen a spike in students wanting to pursue graduate education. I just want to mention a few of our esteemed alumni from our department here at WPI. Mike Dolan is Senior Vice President, just recently retired from ExxonMobil. And what he remembers about his WPI education is this, which I loved. I was looking for a profession that had good opportunities, the ability to travel and see the world. And that pushed me towards chemical engineering. Michelle Gass graduated in '90, and she is CEO of Kohl's and former Senior VP of Starbucks. And she really comments on the WPI approach to education. The project piece was a critical component that showed me how to be successful in the corporate world. And so having that project allowed her to go to Starbucks and to go to Kohl's. She also commented on her professors, adding that they were inspiring about academics, leadership, and life. Nancy Pimental graduated in '90 as well. She's a screenwriter for South Park and The Sweetest Thing, and she's also an executive producer on Shameless and an actress in TV and film. And she credits her WPI education, which really gave her confidence. What she says is there aren't many more difficult things than engineering. And once you've survived organic chemistry, facing a television audience of millions just doesn't seem so scary anymore. I actually can say I can agree with that. I felt very confident after my organic chemistry class as well. Some unique advantages of a WPI chemical engineering education as opposed to other universities you may be considering are the projects and the lab experience. You really get a chance to work on a team, and developing those teamwork skills will be instrumental in your success in industry and beyond. We do have compressed schedules, as you've been learning about. So we have just take 3 classes at a time. They're 7-week terms. It allows you to focus on particular topics. The international assignments and our IQP and the humanities and arts in-depth requirement really exposes you to the global community and gives you a unique lens into cultural awareness, which will really help position you for leadership and success once you graduate. Our grading system allows what's called a redo. It really teaches students resiliency and persistence and risk-taking. We have that unique ability to get an NR for a course that doesn't appear on your record. And you can either take that course again or pursue something else. We have a small size in general compared to some other universities, which allows you to participate in extracurricular activities and to get to know different groups of students. It gives you that balance as opposed to competition, more participation. And we really have an incredible group of professors where their first priority is the students. And so there's a lot of one-on-one time you will get with professors. The professors in our department truly care about the undergraduate experience. That's not always the case when you go to some larger or some more research-intensive schools. Okay, and I am going to stop there, and I'm going to come back to us as a group. And I'm going to actually ask each of our students just to spend a couple of minutes, maybe talking about their projects and some unique things about WPI's education that they really appreciated. And why don't we start with Mutasir?
Sure. So I've been working with Mike Timko and Nick Kazantsis on basically this process that can convert waste to fuel. So one of the problems right now is how much fossil fuel we use. And what they work on is making fuels out of like trees and wastewater sludge. So I've been working on scaling up that process so we can make it on like a really large scale. And that work started out as my MQP, so my major qualifying project, and it ended up being pretty useful and productive. And so I transitioned that into my combined BSMS degree, and now it's also my master's thesis.
And what did you do for your IQP?
I actually did an on-campus IQP myself here. So I did it before it was cool, before COVID.
Right.
I actually really like that about WPI. I was going to mention how flexible like everything is. I'm a homebody and I don't really like traveling that much. So I split up my IQP over 3 terms and did it on campus, and that gave me a lot of flexibility.
I actually did that myself when I was a student too, which was fun. I did it at UMass Medical School, so it was a little bit off campus, but it was local. Yeah, it's great. Okay, thank you. And Marina.
Yeah, so for my IQP, that was in the middle of COVID time last year. So I was supposed to go to New Zealand, and my project was working with the Department of Conservation, helping to enforce rules and legislation on beaches to protect native wildlife there, like the penguins and seals and such, which is a really cool project, but it was a bit challenging virtually. But luckily we still got that exposure and got to talk to the people in New Zealand and all that, which was really great. And hopefully someday I can go and visit my sponsors and the people at the DOC. And as I mentioned earlier, for anyone who might have been in the room, my MQP is working on campus in a research lab with Professor Eric Young. He primarily does bioengineering focused projects. So mine is working with a strain of yeast, trying to engineer it to metabolize beta carotene, which can be used to further metabolize to vitamin A if it's in your body or whatnot. We're pretty deep into the project and we still haven't gotten any beta carotene, but we've gotten pretty much every step up until there. So yeah, it's been a great learning experience, and yeah, it's my project experiment.
Maybe one more question for each of you. Like, what other activities do you participate in on campus? Have you found things that you're interested in, both professional and extracurricular?
Sure, yeah, I can go first. I was and kind of am now removed from it as I'm about to graduate, but I was the president of the International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineers. I kind of helped restart that as a sophomore and was a the vice president and then president for it my junior and senior years. For fun, I'm also on the ski team, which is a really great hobby, lots of fun, great team bonding. I was in the concert band for a while until COVID, and then the restrictions kind of made it so I just decided to knock that off my plate. But it was a really good experience as well, and I got credit for humanities by doing band.
Oh, great.
I'm kind of boring, so I'm like a work to live kind of person. So I spend a lot of my time doing the work I enjoy in the lab. But other than that, I was also recently removed, but I was the president of like the professional society for chemical engineers on campus. And we do like social events where we eat food and some membership development events where we like bring in companies to talk to so you can figure out what chemical engineers actually do, because that takes a little while to figure out. Other than that, like if it's I really like sledding, and there are a bunch of really nice hills on campus since the campus is just built on a hill. So
my son liked sledding this year too with the snow. It was
yeah,
like,
and it's like
wait.
like one day it's 70, the next day it's snowing, so you get the best of both worlds.
Great. Okay. Well, why don't we open it up to any questions from the attendees? You know, feel free to ask or write it into the chat. And if there's anything you want to hear a little bit more about from our students or from me, we're happy to share. All right, well, I'm going to ask another question of our students then. So students, do you know most of the other your classmates? Do you work together on teams? Like, how has that gone in your coursework? I know that when I was thinking about schools, I wanted to find a place that had a community that I could be part of. So if you could comment on your experience with the Chemi community, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I personally see our major not necessarily even compared to other majors, but as a very tight-knit community. I know I have a set of 10 or 15 people that I know I can always reach out to about anything, school related or not, especially when we have these big classes like unit operations with all that equipment in the lab. It might seem really scary at first, say, how do I get this, 3-story column to run without looking like it's gonna explode? You never know. And you say, hey, I know Mike did this last week. Let me reach out to Mike and say, hey, did you find any tricks about using this column that helped you run this experiment better? Stuff like that, that while we're all striving to do our best, it's not competitive to the point where we don't want to help each other out.
Yeah, most of my friends are actually outside Chemi, but my favorite part about our grade was at least our sophomore year, we had like a semi-active group chat with like basically everyone. And whenever we like bombed an exam, everyone would talk about it. And stuff. So I really enjoyed that part of it. I guess I can speak more to like the grad students. So like the labs, since I spend so much time in the labs, a lot of the grad students will like drag me out of the lab and just to like hang out. So they'll do like trivia nights, or we'll like, go down the road to one of the many restaurants down the street on Highland Street. So in general, you're going to find someone who will make you have fun.
Yeah, we usually have about 60 to 70 students per class in chemical engineering. So it's a really nice size. It's not super big like mechanical engineering, and it's not super small like some other disciplines. And so I find, you get to find your people that you work with pretty regularly in your classes on homework assignments and on projects and things like that. And did either one of you get to live on campus at all during your time here? Or yeah, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So freshman year, pretty much everyone lives on campus. I was lucky enough to live in the Stoddard complex, which was great. And
I
then
lived there too.
Oh, did you?
And my son lives there now. So
that's too funny.
You did too? We're all starter people?
Yeah.
What number did you live in, or what letter did you live in?
I was in A.
Okay, I was in
B.
Indeed. So
Look at that.
we filled it all out. Okay, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
And then sophomore year, I lived in Faraday Hall, which frankly, this year would have been more convenient to live there because of all the time I spent at Gateway. So now Gateway is about a 15-minute walk from my apartment. So I got my steps in this year. But yeah, Faraday was beautiful. Such a nice building.
Great.
I only lived on campus my freshman year. So I lived in Stoddard, which was really tight knit. I remember, like I still talk regularly to a lot of the guys I lived with my freshman year. And then I moved off campus because Worcester is really affordable in terms of like off-campus housing, which I would definitely, I always push people towards living off campus.
Yeah, my son said the same thing. He said that it's a really, the guys on his floor, they just all bonded and they're still friends, they were friends throughout their entire freshman year. And he's living in East Hall next year. So that's exciting. Probably one more year on campus and then go off campus.
Yeah, I still live with two of my Stoddard friends this year.
Awesome.
So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I lived with all of my Stoddard friends too when I was, Stoddard's been around a long time, apparently. Since I was there, I think I moved in 88, so it was a really long time ago. Anything you'd like us to talk a little bit more about, any of the attendees? You can write it right in the chat. We're happy to kind of answer any questions if you're thinking about, comparing schools and some of the unique features here at WPI, or have any specific questions that you're really trying to weigh. I know it's such an important decision to decide where you're going to spend the next 4 years of your education, and it's not taken lightly. It's something you want to learn as much about as you can to make that informed choice. So if there's anything in particular you'd like us to address, you can let us know. We'll give you a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds, and feel free to write it into the chat room. And also, where are you all from, the attendees here? Where are you from? Massachusetts, or are you from further away? Okay, well, that's all right. You don't have to have any questions. I'm gonna give why don't I give a couple of closing statements, and then I'll let my students kind of share their kind of one last thing that they want you to remember. For me, why I went to WPI and why I came back to WPI as a faculty member was really the community and the people. I like the size of the school because it's big enough so you can find your people to fit in with, but it's small enough so you get to know everyone. I really liked the chemical engineering department in particular, and some of the unique features, including the facilities and the faculty connection with research, and being able to work very closely with faculty members that you don't get at a lot of other schools. And I really loved the idea of the project experience and being able to either stay local or go far away and work on different projects in the humanities and the arts, as well as understanding how technology impacts society. Really set me off on a different career path. I mean, it really makes me think about my research in a different way, which has been really exciting. And so those are some of the things I love about WPI. I've been thrilled to come back as department head and faculty member in 2015. Love leading this group of faculty, students, and staff. They're absolutely incredible. And I hope to see and meet some of you as you come to campus next year. All right, so final statements from our students.
Sure, I guess I'll go first. I think probably the one thing that's a big takeaway from me as a senior, hopefully going into industry soon, as someone who's had a couple internships, you see how the project-based learning gets put into work in real life. Sometimes you might be thinking when you're in the middle of the project, like, wow, this is a big project. This is really time consuming. This is a lot. That's real life. When you're in a work environment, you're not going to have a single project that's 2 weeks long. Your projects are going to be long. They're going to be in depth. You're going to have to do a lot of work for one project. And that it honestly really helped me a lot at my second internship, and I could see that the whole way through. And it really came full circle. So yeah.
Great, thanks, Marina.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was the flexibility. So I came here because of the quarter system, and it lets you like choose when to take your courses, even though it might feel a little prescribed. But a lot of the things at WPI are set up so you're not really punished for taking risks. So actually, our courses don't really have prerequisites. So there are a couple times where I took a leap of faith with a couple friends and just took, like, my sophomore year, we took a senior capstone mechanical engineering course just for fun.
Oh, cool.
It ended up being like one of the most memorable courses I took. And knowing that I could fall back on like the NR, like even if I bombed the class, it wouldn't really affect me that much, was really comforting.
Awesome. All right, well, best of luck to all of you in your decision. And if you have any further questions, feel free to contact me. My email is on the WPI webpage for chemical engineering. And again, I'm Professor Susan Roberts, and I'm the department head. And I hope you all have a wonderful night. Take care.